For over at least the past 9 months, we've been on this amazing journey. Like, I think I started Jujutsu Kaisen when I was around the 30k mark, which is just truly insane to me that we're here now. So thank you for all of the growth with this series and others that I've covered throughout the past. But yes, for the first time here, we are actually catching up to the current happenings inside of the unforgivable world that is Jujutsu Kaisen. It's honestly really funny to me because like every part in this story seems to, or like at least in my eyes, it seems to dwarf what happened previously, and this section of the story is no exception. In fact, it sets up everything for what I believe to be the final year of Jujutsu Kaisen, especially if we stick with what like good old Gege has given us time frame wise. But enough of me yarning on about this amazing series. If you guys are new around here, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also push this video to 5k likes, and I'll drop the full Jujutsu Kaisen story, like so far at least, kicking off exactly where the anime ended. But either way, I hope you all enjoy the video, and let's get into the Sukuna Revival Arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. So, remember how we left things with Yuji and his group at the end of like the last period? Well, as the influx of American soldiers entered the Culling Game, a multitude of Koganes appeared and began registering the soldiers as new players. Elsewhere, Kenjaku and Uraume are seen at the Zenin clan's warehouse, where surprisingly it's explained that there is a secret way to transfer between colonies. Simply, someone cannot leave a colony unless they've answered the Kogane's call. Unimpressed by this, Uraume instead suggested that this space would be more suitable as the bath for Sukuna's revival. Flying back over to the American troops as they invade Remy's room, which is just like the biggest L for her, not gonna lie. In military fashion, they throw a flashbang before rushing in and trying to immobilize her with a taser, allowing them to then easily inject her with a sedative. Outside, a group of soldiers are seen remarking that the sorcerers were nothing special and simply wondered why their lieutenant was so worried in the first place. Rolling up, we see another group of soldiers who had taken out their target instead of capturing it as ordered. The soldier in charge rebuked her, but the latter flippantly said that it didn't matter since the brain was unharmed. She further complained that literally nothing worked against the sorcerer, and even a 50 cal bullet didn't pierce through the target's skin. So remember the helicopter dude Yuji absolutely pummeled? Well, that's actually the person her squad took out here. Having heard that the dude had a helicopter type head, the soldier was hesitant to believe her until he saw just how damaged the female's comrades were. In the end, she concluded that there must be sorcerers of various power levels, and she just got stuck with one of the tougher ones. Which, you know, like to us readers is absolutely hilarious, thinking that Haba for some reason is OP is too good. I can't actually wait until they find a proper A grade or above sorcerer and have to fight them in like some kind of way. Funnily enough, we pop over and see the ruffian himself, Hazanoki, exploding some poor unsuspecting soldiers' vehicles as they rolled nearby. Noticing that the enemy was a foreigner, the sorcerer remembered Regi's words from earlier and wondered if this was the bomb he suggested Kenjaku would drop. Now back with the megalomaniac himself and Uraume, the latter guessed that the curse energy of every colony would be increased by pitting sorcerers against non-sorcerers, ending the custom before the merger with Tengen. Kenjaku though admitted that what Uraume had guessed is only about 60% of his plan, elaborating that the curse energy levels in every colony except Tokyo and Sendai were still inefficient. Also, Kenjaku did only say that Tokyo was the battleground to the US, so I'm assuming that they aren't anywhere else in the country other than Tokyo Colony number 1 or 2, but we're going to find out about that later on. What's even funnier about the military is that Kenjaku had only sent in the foreign military as insurance, and was already aware that the fighting would not be very intense. Having manifested a curse to clean up the mess that was Ogi Zenin, Kenjaku claimed that unlike reincarnated players, those who had only recently awakened their curse techniques would be reluctant to fight, and the US may even retreat if they get too many casualties. Uraume questioned if the military had been sent in at night to give them an advantage, and also wonders since non-Japanese individuals would not release curse energy, so how is it actually going to help him? Yet, it's actually revealed that in the moment of passing there is an exception, as the stress of seeing curses pushes them to a new level. It's also considered natural law that non-sorcerers can't win against Jujutsu sorcery. Elsewhere, as one poor American soldier notices a terrifying curse spirit, it further goes in depth that Kenjaku had released multiple curse spirits in every colony that are specifically active only at night to force out that higher level of curse energy from these new soldiers. Back over with the main crew now, Angel quickly deduced that Kenjaku had sent in non-sorcerers to be killed by curse spirits as a failsafe to produce more curse energy. Having left the room now and made their way down some stairs, the group run into an empty cafeteria right as a stun grenade lands in front of them, obviously thrown by the military boys. Noticing it, Yuji quickly kicks the flashbang away before it could explode in front of them. Seeing the squad pull up, Megumi initially assumed that these soldiers were trying to protect people, but instantly discarded the possibility as these soldiers without a second thought began shooting at the sorcerers. Abruptly, we then seem to skip away and see what seems to be the past memory from a cursed spirit feeding 3 young children inside of an abandoned building. Then, back with the group, all of a sudden, we see good old Megumi interrogating a Japanese soldier who is actually acting as a guide for the foreign military forces. When Hana asks why Japan had not taken the opportunity to become energy self-sufficient sooner, the soldier responds that Jujutsu headquarters controlling the country is too proud and everyone here is obsessed with self-responsibility, so it would never have caught on like it would have in other countries. Megumi also realised that Kenjaku had only lured the military to the colonies under the false pretense that cursed energy was up for grabs as another energy source. From this, Megumi then deduces that their soldiers' deaths would increase the cursed energy in their colonies and complete the ritual preceding Tengen's merger with the wider Japanese population. Megumi, obviously is so damn big brain that the dude even suspects that Kenjaku has likely orchestrated the Culling Game as a distraction for his true plan. Stepping in, Yuji asks if they should help them, prompting Takaba to ask why they should even help people who wanted to abduct them for experiments. Megumi reasons that if they allow Kenjaku to fulfill the ritual, everyone would be caught up in the merger with Tengen. Yet Angel cuts in telling them that it's no use since Tokyo Colony 1 has already reached the required level of curse energy. Yuji challenges Angel's decision though, stating that it did not invalidate their saving of other people's lives. The latter tries explaining to Yuji though that it has a symbiotic relationship with its vessel, so putting Hana at unnecessary risk is akin to putting the curse living within her body at risk itself. Shooting over, we then see the true terror that some soldiers are being put through. After having fun with its first soldier, the predatory curse then picked up its next prey, which just happened to be the same Japanese soldier the group was interrogating before. Laying there and suspecting the worst, the soldier thinks back on the times he had believed that he was ready to pass on, but feels that now this is different and seeing what awaits him truly shatters his resolve. Nearby, Yuji and Megumi just happen to be running through an alleyway. Megumi insists to his boy that he doesn't need to be so hostile and asks if Yuji's comment about not trusting Hana was a reference to beings like Sukuna and Angel. Skipping away for a moment and referring back to the random flashback that we had just before, well, it was actually Hana as a child. Sadly, she had been forced to live with that cursed spirit for almost a year. Eventually though, she managed to escape after following a white dog with a fluffy tail. Of course, it was no one other than Megumi's white divine dog who had led her to safety before returning to him and Gojo. As Hana watches the 3 reunite and begin to leave, it flashes back to the present as she remembers their kindness. Because of that moment during her childhood, she decided to try and help people herself, as she's always believed that someday they would meet again and she would proudly stand by his side. All Megumi wanted was for Yuji to be a bit more considerate, to which, after hearing all of this, our boy confesses that ever since they regrouped, he was just scared that Hana would take Nobara's place. Which, oh my lord, Gege, we actually got some Nobara crumbs for the first time in how long? We're damn fiends out here, absolutely wanting anything to do with her or Gojo, man. Just come on, please. Anyway, as Megumi scolds Yuji and asks him to apologize to Hana, the queen herself appears before the boys, bringing the group fully back together. Let the ripening begin. If you guys know what I mean, then you know what I mean. As huge beams of light suddenly emerge from every colony throughout Japan, begins attracting the attention of everyone throughout the entire country. Not understanding what's happening, many people just note that something doesn't feel right, like the air had become unnaturally dry. Returning to our crew, Maki gives everyone a full rundown of everything that's happened up till this point. She explained that Chosu had managed to protect the back of the prison realm, but relayed the news of Yuki's defeat and Tengen's capture. In another location, our boy Choso, clutching the Gege, or literally Hope itself in this case here I guess, weeps as Karara asked him about Yuki's whereabouts, pretty much to me at least confirming her demise. Maki further told the first 2 years that the ritual preceding the merger had already ended. Calmly, Maki concluded that taking down the villain would be a challenge, leading Yuji to wonder how the merger hadn't actually started yet. Angel points out to the group that the sorcerers inside of the colonies could probably reject the merger with Tengen because of their cursed energy, so because of that, nothing is going on around them. Being able to travel inside and out of the barriers herself though, Maki disagrees and informs them that apart from a few affected people, most of Japan's population is unaffected as of now. Megumi suspected that Kenjaku either couldn't start the merger yet or didn't want to. However, since there was no way to find out right now, they decided to focus on freeing Sameki first. Intervening in the conversation himself, Yuji decides to list off the 4 rules that they decided to implement. Megumi again clarifies that Rule 1 does indeed subject a player to curse technique removal or subsequently death through something messing with their brain. The purpose of this first rule was just to start fights with people, but now they can obviously circumvent that. Maki though remarked that it was actually rules 2 and 3 which were the tricky ones, as they involved somehow creating a form of movement and communication across colonies. Stepping forth herself, Hannah declares that she could move across the colonies by virtue of Angel's curse technique. Maki asked if it's possible that she could use her curse technique on someone else to help them leave, but the voice of Angel replied that they could only extinguish a barrier technique by destroying the root of the barrier itself. If they can't locate the so-called root, they're only able to pass through the colonies without actually destroying them. With the group realizing that adding new rules might not actually allow them to move across colonies, they decide to add the 4th rule and focus on allowing players to withdraw from the game entirely. So earlier on, and I would say it was back while Megumi was recovering, Yuji had transferred all of the accumulated points over to Megumi, bringing his total number of points up to 359. By the way, there is actually a tiny mess up by Gege right here. Notice that it already says 1 rule. Well, Gege had messed up and spoiled everyone in some kind of way, letting them know that Megumi did indeed implement at least 1 rule. Speaking up himself, Megumi attempts to add a rule, allowing players to withdraw from the game, but Kogen rejects it, stating that it clashed against rule 7. Megumi tried again, asking if the Game Master would allow players to withdraw if they invited a substitute into the colony to take their place, but still, Kogen refused. However, out of nowhere, it actually states that the Culling Game has a suggestion. It says that it would indeed let players leave the game on the condition that they provided 1 substitute and spent 100 points. Unable to negotiate any further and utterly peeved with the result, Megumi agreed despite knowing that adding the new rule would require them to take out at least another 20 sorcerers to just leave. With all of the negotiations complete, Megumi created a new rule, Rule 11. A player can leave the game by expending 100 points to invite a new player into the colony as a substitute. Looking over to the clan killer herself, which they don't actually realise that Maki's even taken out of clan yet, Megumi asks if it's okay for her to transport Sukumi to Tokyo Colony number 1. Yuji asked though if it would be safer to transfer the points to her remotely since she was already outside the colonies. However, Megumi pointed out that since the rules illicitly stated that a player must declare their participation in a colony within 19 days, trying to circumvent it might lead to his sister being subject to curse technique removal when she tries to leave the game. Flashing forth now to the fateful day of November the 16th, we see that after reconnecting with Sumiki, Maki led her and the assistant manager Ojichi to the outskirts of Tokyo Colony number 1. So, when it actually comes to who's going to be the substitute for Sumiki here, Gege had previously agreed to take the role due to Maki's lack of curse energy, as it prevents the barrier from even recognizing her or allowing her to become a substitute. Sumiki is visibly conflicted by the idea, but Ojichi reasoned that they didn't have enough time to find someone else, as it had literally been 16 days since everything begun, literally only giving her 3 days before her brain goes poof. Standing there, Ojichi reminisces on past memories and how they always wanted to be a sorcerer that helps people. Yet, Gojo demanded that he get his license and become a manager instead. Back then, Ojichi had thought the sorcerer to be harsh, but now he realised that he would have been dead by now if he continued down that path he had previously chosen. So he thanks Gojo for putting him on the right track. So remember the spawn glitch Yuji and Megumi previously went through back a little bit? Well, somehow, I don't even know how she managed to do this, but Sumiki hacked the game and got insanely lucky, appearing directly before Megumi and Yuji upon entering the barrier, completely stunning the both of them. With no time to lose, Megumi, not even speaking to her, transferred 100 points to his sister, asking her to declare her withdrawal from the game. However, to their complete and utter shock, Sumiki used the points to instead add a new rule to the game. She immediately makes the 12th rule, granting players unrestricted entry and exit across colony borders. Mortified and literally just standing there unable to fathom what just happened, Megumi asks his grinning sister who in the world she really was. I wonder, so, have you ever felt pain? In those few moments before what we now know as pain crawled its way out of the dark abyss itself, Yuji had just assumed everything was sweet. Now Sumiki was safe, Megumi would be alright, Angel would follow up after and then kill Sukuna along with Yuji and release Gojo, who would in turn take care of Kenjaku. The plan literally had no faults, apart from the fact that they don't own the playing field that they're standing on. I'm honestly at the point right now that I think they just lose here. This story ends on a sad note and will be the first shonen to do so with all of the bad guys winning. Unless somehow Gojo gets out and goes utterly god mode. That's the only way they win right now, in my eyes. It's utterly crazy. However, Sumiki was then revealed to be an imposter. Watching this thing in front of him cackle, Megumi asks the imposter who they are, to which she hysterically gloats that she's definitely his big sister. Stricken and at a loss for words, Megumi remembers that the incarnated players are given access to the memories of their hosts. Thus, because of that, it's entirely possible for them to impersonate their hosts. Feeling like a complete idiot now, Megumi berates himself for ever thinking that his sister had automatically awakened like Uraume and Takaba. So, this person inside of Megumi is actually called Yorozu, a sorcerer from at least 1000 years ago, just like a few of the other people here. Megumi, who obviously just wants to know why, is told that she pretended to be his big sister to use the free points for her own gain. She hasn't had a good fight in at least 1000 years and wants to choose her battle along with its location. Claiming that she wants to take on Sukuna first, moth-like wings begin forming on her back before she jumps off the building and begins boosting away. Yuji and Hana instantly go to give chase, not wanting her to escape. However, like everyone please, just remember back to episode 7 right here and right now. Already in a moment of despair, Sukuna uses that opportunity to appear on the side of Yuji's face and utter the words, "In chain." As per the binding vow shown in chapter 11 or episode 7, Yuji is instantly forced to hand over his body to Sukuna. Without any hesitation, Sukuna immediately appears on the back of Hana, taking her out with complete ease. Looking over at Megumi, whose brain must be going through it right now, Sukuna explains that he once made a vow with Yuji. Having explained that he can't harm anyone to Megumi, he notes that from here on out, everything that he does is just a complete gamble. Sending some form of channeling curse energy to Yuji's finger, Sukuna then proceeds to freaking tear his entire finger off. Screaming at this moment in pure joy, he explains that it was a gamble because he wasn't even sure if Yuji included himself in the vow when stipulating the condition that Sukuna must not hurt anyone. Megumi. Typical man instantly pulls out the arm movements to do Maharaga, but I honestly can't blame him, he doesn't really have any other choice at the moment. So as he tries to summon Maharaga, Sukuna darts in, grabbing his face and restricting the summoning seal before shoving his finger down her boy's unsuspecting throat. With the curse energy pulsating through Megumi, an unconscious Yuji comes to, not even realizing what just happened as per the vow stipulations. However, standing opposite his boy, he hears Sukuna say that indeed sees something interesting in the future, didn't they? Raising his head, we see that no one other than the King of Curses himself has supposedly fully reincarnated inside of Megumi for Shigeru's body. Well, that just happened boys, and at this moment we very possibly could have lost yet another of the original trio. Yet, in my eyes, we can't lose them. We can't lose them all unless the bad guys actually win in the series. So, if down the line it's confirmed and the bath is completed and everything is just turned to utter trash, remind me that hope itself was utterly sucked out of the series at this exact moment. Please, just come back and let me know down below. But anyway, going back, probably for a last time I would say, into the inner world of Sukuna's, we see a monologue about the intricacies of his plan for Megumi. Back during the day when he confronted Megumi as Yuji for the first time, he sensed unmatched potential from him, his curse techniques and his abilities. He knew that he could have forced Megumi to eat his finger then and there that day, but had purposefully waited until he had built up enough strength inside of Yuji to initiate the vow. I actually have a great theory here on how we all know that Kenjaku had made Yuji specifically for Sukuna. Well, what if Kenjaku also made it a binding vow that Yuji would not be able to use his curse technique while Sukuna was caged inside of him? With Sukuna finally leaving our boy's body now, we may see for the first time that Yuji actually has his mother's technique, or possibly something that even relates to a little thing that I'll bring up right at the very end of this video. Anyway, atop the building, Meguna, which is Sukuna Megumi mix-up, I'm just going to call him that sometimes, the absolute beast himself stands there, leaving Yuji stunned, asking for his friend to just talk to him. Yet, as we all probably expected was just about to happen, the demon, Megumi as Sukuna, comes in with a charge and punches Yuji. And this wasn't any ordinary level of punch as well. Man disapparated the fabric around the area that he hit on Yuji. It made Yuji freaking throw up while sending him hurling through a multitude of different skyscrapers. Eventually though, Yuji ends up finishing his destructive path on a rooftop of another building completely unconscious and covered in rubble. Noticing some people approaching the area, Sukuna states that in every damn age, insects always come crawling out of the woodwork. Placing his hands together, he then forms the sign of Megumi's 10 Shadows technique, more specifically, the hand signs for Nue. Instantly, a monolithic-sized Nue is summoned atop a nearby skyscraper. With everyone reacting in pure shock and awe at the size of Nue, it releases its usually pretty ineffective attack that simply stuns people, yet this time it rains deadly lightning down on everyone from the sky above. Having recovered from her previous beating, Hana quickly makes her appearance by shooting over, showing up behind the revived demon. Seeing her, Sukuna realizes that Hana and the angel coexist, and thus she can recover very fast to say in comparison to him and Yuji in the past. Given that Hana is extremely in love with Megumi, I would say, probably from what I've read so far, she screams in hesitation, not wanting to hurt Megumi. However, Angel insists that there is no other choice. He is the disgraced one and must be eliminated right away. Thus, as Hana cries to get Megumi back, Angel begins reciting the incarnation to dispel evil itself. Speaking to God now, she tells him to purify all, remove his anguish, transgressions, and guilt to guide him on the correct path. Instantly, Jacob's letter initiates, filling the sky with some form of holy symbol, before a mass of pure light energy strikes down upon the disgraced one himself. In another note, boys, just quickly cutting in here, and after browsing the interwebs myself, I discovered that Jacob's letter is actually referring to a line from Genesis 28:10-19. I don't know if that's actually, I think that's how you say Bible lines. I should know, I was raised in the church. This part of the Bible narrates the story of Jacob dreaming of the angels descending from the heavens and the ladder appearing to take their souls from earth to heaven. So in other words, the attack simply dispels evil while sending the person's soul on the correct path, or at least that's how I've interpreted her attack as. With a mass of light bearing down on Maguna, it begins tearing at Sukuna's soul in an attempt to bring Megumi back. As Hana is crying, screaming that Megumi belongs to her, it appears as if her technique has actually managed to work, dispelling Sukuna's spirit from Megumi's body. But remember, honestly, just how I said before, that incarnated sorcerers and people like Sukuna can mimic how their body used to behave, while Angel realizes that Sukuna is still in control and manipulating Hana with Megumi's voice. Not paying attention though, Hana falls into Megumi's arms, saying that she's always. Sadly though, she's unable to continue her sentence as Sukuna fully reveals himself before going to strike on an unsuspecting Hana. Calling her a foolish human, Sukuna, like an absolutely rabid dog, bites and tears at Hana before throwing her across the entirety of the building, causing her to smash into the side of the protective railing. Yuji, down below, watching this in shock and not even able to comprehend what just happened, witnesses Hana thud onto the ground below, with no indication that she'll ever return. Looking down from the top of the building himself, Sukuna is astonished to see Yuji somehow alive after the previous blow. With rage beginning to fill up inside of him, and after realizing that he's lost the one thing keeping him together and giving him meaning in life, Yuji breaks. In a complete flash, Yuji jumps across the building, breaking the ground below him and causing the entire skyscraper to collapse. He grabs Sukuna's neck and screams his name before landing a ferocious punch on the King of Curses' face, forcing him to dart back across the street. Regaining his footing, Sukuna wonders just how in the world Yuji's so strong all of a sudden. Then, in that freaking moment, Yuji takes him off guard, throwing a massive section of the previously collapsing building into the demon's face, sending him shooting back once again. Sprinting towards them himself, Yuji grabs a piece of rebar to beat down on Sukuna with. With him darting in behind the King of Curses, Sukuna remarks that he should have seen this coming. After all, Yuji is from back then. And what do you mean by that, Sukuna, right there, eh? Anyway, having blocked Yuji's strike with the bar, Sukuna counters by disarming and kicking him in the face while noting that Kenjaku's jaw is twisted. I'll expand more on what this means in a moment, but honestly, in my opinion, this all relates back to Yuji and him having his curse technique suppressed, or it being suppressed while he was being used as a cage for Sukuna. So don't be surprised if our guy manages to manifest an inherited technique in the very near future. But yeah, as Yuji continues to approach Sukuna, trying to attack him, he screams, asking him why. Why is it that he just can't live normally like everyone else? Why can't he live a life without causing everyone to suffer? Yuji continues approaching when all of a sudden Sukuna uses his curse technique Slash to cut Yuji across the chest. Replying to his previous statements, Sukuna rebuttals him, asking him why he's so weak, continuously trying to cling to life. He continues by saying that their suffering is only natural and they are meant to live life with this misery. For a moment there, Yuji forgot that there is no reasoning with them, as they are and always will be curses. Yuji dares Sukuna to chew on his misery and suffering instead, while beginning to march towards the Demon Lord himself. Passing him off is just utterly pathetic. Sukuna uses his curse technique to continuously cut Yuji over and over and over and over again. Yet, our boy is just built different, and with a rage-filled heart, he puts the pain aside and stuns Sukuna by not slowing his approach at all. Standing there and actually confused now on what is going on, Sukuna wonders how in the world he's so tough. Then out of freaking nowhere, and just like during Shibuya, once again proving that the body and soul are one, Megumi holds Sukuna's movements, allowing his boy to follow up and pummel his face with a fat right hook. Elsewhere, and literally just boasting it over on the Blowfish Express, Uraume and Kenjaku are seen travelling towards what I assume to be the current beatdown. Back in the battle and having smacked Sukuna in the face, Megumi remarks that Fushiguro is indeed stopping his curse energy output, which is allowing him to only use 10% of his maximum output, hence how Yuji has managed to survive the blow so far. Sukuna notes that, well, it's probably expected when the job's only half done, but still considers it enough to easily take out Yuji. Interesting, so I wonder what the other half of this ritual to fully take over Megumi's body will be. Probably something to do with the bath, and that'll happen at the Zenen's household, which is their fitting, seeing that Megumi is actually like from the Zenen's bloodline and all. Standing there, Meguna is completely taken by surprise as he couldn't sense Maki actually slowly moving towards the epicenter of the fight. Wanting to know what in the world caused Sukuna's body to switch into Megumi's, Maki asks to be brought up to date, with Yuji just completely battered and bruised, telling her to just kill him as he's not going to die either way. Boosting in, Maki attempts to land a fat head kick in collaboration with Yuji. However, Megumi's body is functioning extremely well, obviously, from what we've seen so far, and he's comfortably able to counter his opponent. Still, Maki, with her immense speed, is able to break through his defenses and send him flying, smashing into some railing nearby. Taking the opportunity, Yuji then grabs the other side of the railing, bending it around Sukuna, before Maki follows up in combination and kicks him into a building nearby. Seeing the unharmed demon waltz out though, Maki wonders if it's impossible to actually inflict damage with her soul liberation sword because Sukuna will use his reverse curse techniques to heal himself. Knowing that no matter what happens here, they'll have to kill Sukuna, Maki charges in, saying he'll have to keep up with her speed. Probably running at speeds faster than sound right now, Sukuna is surprisingly able to keep up with the attacks of Maki and Yuji, but notes that whenever he tries to attack them with curse energy, the pull from Megumi inside him is stronger, and thus, to get around Megumi, Sukuna, like the absolute big brain man he is, uses his curse technique, Cleave, spider threads on the ground below to utterly destroy the ground and disbalance Yuji and Maki. With the ground around them now falling to bits, Sukuna is able to easily dart in and lands a fat right hook, yet Maki simply spits out a tooth or two, leaving him completely impressed with how she's hardly even worried with taking damage. As Sukuna falls back a little, a mysterious foe then randomly appears from the side, and uses a maximum output technique called Dead Calm. The resulting aftermath from the attack not only freezes the entirety of the area, but also Maki and Yuji. So, that mysterious person happened to be no one other than the coldest woman out, Sukuna's right-hand woman, Uraume, who apologizes for her grand entrance while saying that she's still waking the ice around Yuji just in case they need him. Sukuna though literally doesn't care for him anymore and instead just compliments her, stating that focusing her energy on Maki was a good idea. Believing that everything here is sweet now, Sukuna then summons Niue, saying that this body is still not complete, so they need to prepare for the bath immediately. In that moment though, our goat though, looking more beaten and bruised than ever after this escalade, bursts his way out of the ice. Noticing this, Uraume proposes taking him out, but Sukuna says that they should just look at him and have a good laugh. Flying away for what seems like good in Yuji's eyes, Sukuna, having taken the body of Yuji's best friend, and Uraume laugh at his face, noticing that he looks just like the person from the Harima province. Which is exactly what I was referring to and goes back to Kenjaku using a binding vow on Yuji at birth or even beforehand. The vow would not allow him to use his technique in return for Yuji being used as a vessel for Sukuna, to help restore his strength obviously. We know that Kenjaku had purposely found a bloodline that has some form of durability as we've seen in Yuji, possibly to just keep Sukuna safe during his time in Yuji, and now it's confirmed that Yuji actually has true heritage that originates from a family in the Harima province, and this Harima province was established in the 600s AD and ran up to the late 1800s, so definitely before the current time period. So, you all thought the arc ended here? Well no. Sukuna as Megumi actually sped round this damn bath, and after having arrived at the Zenen's household, we see him falling deeper and deeper into evil itself. Outside the bath, Uraume, dressed up in ritual robes, asks Kenjaku whether or not he plans to end the Culling Game. To which Kenjaku explains that his assimilation of the wider population can't actually happen until the game ends. The reason the Culling Game was even able to be constructed in the first place was because Kenjaku had shouldered the burden of an equally unreasonable binding vow. Yet, instead of getting on with ending it, currently, he's more interested in Sukuna's bath and how it works. Kenjaku himself knew that the bath was originally a ritual to transform vessels that had been treasured as family heirlooms into curse tools. To do this, the clan must make a solution of curse energy, which is created by straining organisms chosen in a kodoku ritual. Once it is prepared, the vessels are soaked for 10 months and 10 days in the solution. So what's actually really cool about this ritual is that it's actually something from real Japanese folklore. It's a derivative of the Chinese gu magic, and it's a type of poisonous ability. In our real life, to create kodoku, sorcerers would mix several insects in a jar and let them kill one another until only one survived. The fluids of the insect that survived would be used to poison an individual with a curse that would control them, cause them misfortune, or kill them. The remaining insects would also be used as a sort of luck charm, granting the one who performed the ritual great wealth. This ritual could also be used as a death curse by giving the riches to an ignorant individual. Perhaps like Kenjaku if he's ignorant enough in this example here, but I don't actually think he is. The term kodoku can also be applied to the spirit, which is the incarnation of this particular magic. Funnily enough, this technique was even used in the Nara period in like real life, which we now know as the era just before the golden age of sorcery in Jujutsu Kaisen. So, Kenjaku was actually surprised that they specifically chose to use curses in this ritual, especially for the fact that they become dust upon their deaths. Uraume though, like the cold queen that she is, actually figured out a way to get around this. Simply, if she carefully pins down these spirits before freezing their cores, they don't turn into dust, and it allows them to strain away the toxins they need. Confused with the purpose of it all, Kenjaku asks why, and Uraume just tells him it's to get closer to evil. The entire purpose of this ritual is to suppress Megumi Fujiguro's soul deeper into the depths. As the further down he sinks, the easier it is for Sukuna to control the cage he's currently controlling. Having completed the bath, the demon lord himself rises from the depths of evil, symbolizing that Megumi Fujiguro has lost the small hold he had over Sukuna. Kenjaku questions why he didn't change his appearance, but Sukuna just reasons that if he's gonna be battling sorcerers, then it's better to maintain Megumi's appearance. Honestly, this is just probably for the fact that whenever he runs into a group of people from like Jujutsu High, it'll just completely and utterly shatter their resolve, as he never actually expected something like this would ever happen. So remember Samiki, which is now Yorozu? Well, it was actually a dude that reincarnated inside of her, and after leaving Yuji, they traveled back to their hometown, before later heading to the Sendai colony, which was the closest, barrier to it. Having got the rundown on this from Kenjaku, Sukuna says that he doesn't give a damn about Yorozu, but instead wants to destroy Samiki Fushiguro to completely sink Megumi's soul inside of him. As they then leave on the Blowfish Express, Kenjaku tells him that he'll give him a ride to the colony, but wants the points in exchange. So I truly wonder what in the world he's about to do with the 200 or so points that he's just received from Sukuna here. Let me know your thoughts on that down below. Do you reckon he's gonna actually pay for himself to leave the game entirely and just let everyone else do their thing while he causes havoc outside of the colonies and stuff? But anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Shooting back to the Sendai colony for the first time in a while, both Uro and Ryu notice a mass of bloodlust appear from afar. Uro utterly breaks down, muttering that here he comes, the king of curses. Instantly, Sukuna arrives in front of Ryu, and as he slowly begins walking up to him, he asks if he's gonna run or not. But before Ryu could even act, Sukuna activates his slash technique and slashes Ryu across the chest. Blown away though, because he obviously thought he was going to get cut into a multitude of pieces, Sukuna just laughs and apologizes, saying that he underestimated Ryu but won't hold back again. Feeling the bloodlust rising, Ryu jumps back and tries to use Granite Blast, but before he could even finish his attack sequence, Sukuna slices Ryu across the face, utterly destroying one of my favorite characters in typical Gege fashion. Having left the area that he was just at and now arriving at a football field in Sendai, Sukuna finally encounters Yorozu. Standing there, and after realizing that Sukuna's stolen someone else's body and switched, Sukuna just remarks that this dude's face looked much better. And damn, I don't know if you guys could obviously hear, but between the time that 215 and 216 came out, I got COVID and I'm absolutely terribly ill right now, so I hope the end of this wasn't too bad. But what a way to revive the King of Curses himself. Obviously, from what we've seen and read here, he isn't fully revived yet and has chosen to just keep the form of Megumi until he can completely subdue the student's soul. I'd love to know what your thoughts on this arc are, so make sure you let me know down below. And if you are new around here and want to watch a bunch of content just like this, but for a variety of different series, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn that bell notification on. Also, I'll be re-scripting and re-editing the entirety of the Gojo past arc over the next few days for the full JJK story video. So for all of my long-time subscribers, it feels like a brand new video that you guys get. It doesn't just feel like I'm rehashing 8 or so videos together. But anyway, if you guys do want earlier access to that, then check out my Patreon, and I've also had a few comments in the past asking to put my videos into podcast format, so I've gone and done that for everyone and set up a Spotify and all that kind of jazz. And if you're interested, then the link for that is all down in the description below. But anyway, for now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and thank you for all of the support on absolutely everything so far. But I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.